Hello, you're watching Ruslan Belov's channel. We also have an interesting situation unfolding around Iran and Israel. Fox News, you know what they reported? It turns out the US is already considering the use of tactical nuclear weapons against Iran's underground Fordo facility. Can you believe it? The conflict's been going on for just a week, and they're already talking about tactical nukes. Meanwhile, we've been in Ukraine for 3.5 years and haven't used any tactical nukes. Pretty funny, right? Anyway, the fighting on the Ukrainian front continues, and we'll keep analyzing the situation. Let's turn to the map. We'll start today's report from the north, from the Kharkiv region. The Dvorishna foothold has become very active, although to be fair, it's not even just a foothold anymore. It's a full-fledged front line stretching about 30 kilometers. First of all, we're getting good news from the northwestern Dvorishna front, particularly near the village of Dolhenka. There's no confirmed control yet though, but movement is happening not only there. There are also advances slightly further south, near Kupiansk. Even American mapmakers are updating this area. As you can see, Ukrainian forces are losing Kondrashivka. Our troops have managed to push forward into the central part of the village and take control. To help you understand the importance and difficulty of the task accomplished, let me show you the terrain, just so you can clearly see what we're dealing with. You see, before this, our positions were in a lowland. And I'll say this, the fact that the Ukrainian armed forces positioned up here on the heights not only failed to dislodge us from the lower part of the village, but also lost control of the heights. That says a lot. It speaks to their demoralization, poor preparation, and of course, the superiority of Russian fighters. They had a huge advantage, holding part of the road and part of the village from higher ground. But over the past 24 hours, Russian soldiers drove them out, and now those heights are under our full control. For now, the Ukrainian forces still hold the southern part of Kondrashivka and a few minor spots, but specifically concerning the western outskirts, since we already control the high ground, the AFU will be driven out of there quickly. As for the southern part, the terrain is complex there too, but most of Kondrashivka is already under our control. They'll resist for a while, of course, but probably not for long. Their fate is sealed, and I think you all know what I mean. A few more words about the Kharkiv region. Just how important is our success near Kondrashivka, and how important is Kondrashivka itself? Honestly, it's extremely important, no exaggeration. Look here. From Kondrashivka, the road leads straight into Kupiansk. The distance to the northern outskirts, if you measure directly from our current positions, is just 2.5 kilometers. And once the southern part of Kondrashivka comes under our full control, the distance will be only 1.5 kilometers. And keep in mind, Kondrashivka isn't a tiny village like Radkivka, with one street and a few houses. This is a place where we can accumulate resources for further offensive operations. That's why Ukrainian media are sounding the alarm. Kondrashivka must not be lost. This is a major issue. Urgently send reinforcements. But it's too late. The Ukrainian armed forces have already lost Kondrashivka, and the fact that they're still clinging to the southern part won't last. As for the rest of the Kharkiv region, it's all stably static. No advances. These are completely dead sections of the front where the line of contact hasn't moved. Occasionally, something shifts once every month or so. And even then, just a little. And right before recording this video, we received some very interesting information from the Russian Ministry of Defense. Russian forces broke into the suburbs of Kupiansk and took control of the village of Myrov. Now it's important to get visual confirmation from there. So you know what? We might actually witness the storming and capture of Kupiansk sooner than we see progress toward Borova. Anyway, let's move from Kharkiv region to other areas where we had progress. Yesterday, we made major gains in the pocket between Toretsk and Myrnohorod, in the Kostiantynivka section of the front. Russian troops advanced significantly into one of the last fortified positions of the AFU. In the village of Oleksandro-Kalinov, the advance was 820 meters. Sounds like a small number, right? But keep in mind, this is inside a heavily fortified residential area. I've told you before that south of Kostiantynivka, the AFU have only 2 defensive strongholds left, Yablunivka and Oleksandro-Kalinove. And now they are losing Oleksandro-Kalinove. At the moment, they're holding only the northern edge of the village, and we're just 400 meters away from reaching the boundary, all through urban terrain. Is this an important event? Absolutely. Why? Well, if Oleksandro Kalinov is taken, then we can put pressure on Yablunivka from the east, while our forces are already advancing from the west. So the AFU will find themselves in a pincer movement. Some might point out there's a river in between, and that'll be a problem. Maybe. But after 3.5 years of war, we've long since learned how to deal with such problems. And really, it's not a river, more like a small stream. Besides exerting pressure on Yablunivka, there's another key point. If we fully secure Oleksandro Kalinove, this road here leads all the way to Kostiantynivka, without any other settlements in the way. Well, except for one small village, Berestokh, which is right outside Kostiantynivka. And now, from our current positions, it's just 8 kilometers to the city. Not a huge distance, especially considering that just a month and a half ago, it was 23 kilometers to the city from this sector. So from 23 to 8, that's a huge difference. If we covered 15 kilometers in a month and a half, then it's entirely realistic to cover the remaining 8 in the next month and a half. So, as I said in yesterday's report, the battle for Kostiantynivka is a matter of months. I believe by September, our forces will be approaching the city from multiple directions, from Chasiv Yar, from Stepov, from Dilevka and Bilahora, and from this current section. And then the real battle will begin. Everything is heading in that direction. What else can be said about the advance? The village of Novonikolaevka has come under our control, and even the Ministry of Defense has officially reported it. The American mapmakers haven't yet marked it completely red, but even the Ukrainian side has acknowledged the village's loss. Here, I'm not making anything up. Here's a screenshot from a Ukrainian armed forces soldier, Muchnov, where he writes that we've fully pushed through the village. And I'll tell you even more, we're already trying to break into the neighboring village of Moravka. So far, we haven't been able to establish a foothold or dig in there, but it's only a matter of time. With the fall of Novonikolaevka, Moravka's fate is also sealed. It's important to note, though, Moravka is a more difficult village to storm, because 2 rivers run right in front of it on the eastern side and through the middle of the village itself, dividing it in half. So yes, it will be more difficult than Novonikolaevka, but the fact remains they won't be able to hold on to the village. Now moving to the Sumy direction, near the village of Kianitsa. Control over this area, especially over the hills just south of the village, is key to the battle for Sumy, according to military analyst Yuri Podolyaka. Losing control over this area could become a decisive factor in the city's defense. From here, Russian drones can sever the AFU's logistics routes in just a matter of weeks, while infantry and artillery build up their presence. That's why fierce fighting is happening here over every hamlet, and both Russian and Ukrainian forces are pouring more and more reserves into the area. The Russian advance here is slow but steady. Russian forces have already approached the hilly forested areas near Mala Korchakovka. Additionally, to establish logistics control, it's critical to secure the triangle of settlements, Mokritsia, Velika Rybitsia, and Miropilya. To fully dominate the Ukrainian logistics and prepare for either an assault or encirclement of Sumy, one more triangle needs to be taken, Mala Rybitsia, Osoivka, and Uhroyedi, and ideally also the area to the south, Krasnopilya. Now to the Novopavlivka direction, under the responsibility of the Vostok Group. The fighting at the junction of the Volchya, Mokry Yali, and Solenaya rivers poses an increasing threat to Kiev after Ukrainian forces were pushed out of Kamar and Zaporizhzhia. The loss of these 2 settlements by the AFU caused their positions to start collapsing further, including on the flanks, west of Fedorivka and north of Alexiivka. Russian units are continuing to take control of forest plantations along the western bank of the Mokry Yali near Fedorivka, aiming to cut off supply lines to the Ukrainian garrisons fighting in Yalta and Zirka. The next Russian targets here are expected to be Myrna and Podubna. Meanwhile, north of the Volchya River, Russian forces are engaging in combat around Dakhna, which is already in the Dnipropetrovsk region, and are clearing the pocket between Alexiivka and Orikhiv. After that, together with units of the Center Group operating from the north, who still need to complete their own preparatory objectives, the advance toward Novopavlivka will begin, a strategically critical settlement in this sector. Its capture would open up vast new opportunities for the Russian army. That's all for the front lines for today. Now a few words about politics. Trump is once again publicly raising the stakes, demanding Iran's capitulation. These scare tactics serve two purposes. First, to pressure the opponent into accepting terms, which can then be presented as a victory. Second, to provoke protests inside Iran in the context of a large-scale war with the US. We're not looking for a ceasefire, we're seeking complete victory. That means no nuclear weapons for Iran, Trump said. For 20 years, maybe more, I've been saying Iran must not have nuclear weapons. If they do, they'll use them. I'm sure they will. Trump also announced he would hold a meeting on Iran and Israel today. He clarified that he has not made a final decision regarding Iran yet, but he does have his own ideas on how to proceed. We're watching closely. One thing is clear, negotiations are happening. They're waiting for something. Trump is not particularly eager to get dragged into the Iran situation, no matter what others may think. But anything can happen. If war with Iran escalates, the Ukrainian crisis could be quickly and quietly abandoned. A source in Kyiv told us that Zelensky returned furious from the G7 summit. Andriy Yermak tried to calm him down, but it backfired. The head of the president's office had to retreat, according to the Telegram channel Resident. Zelensky believes Yermak failed his US visit and couldn't arrange negotiations with Trump, who publicly showed the world he's not interested in the Ukrainian issue. At the G7 summit, Zelensky failed to secure either new sanctions against Russia or additional military aid from the US Western media, are reporting what is essentially another failure of Bankova's diplomatic efforts. Reuters reports that Zelensky left the summit without any meeting with Donald Trump, who refused to endorse anti-Russian actions. The Guardian emphasizes that the US vetoed a joint G7 statement on Ukraine, considering the wording too hostile toward Moscow and potentially harmful to negotiations with Putin. Trump made it clear, Ukraine is not a priority. Zelensky has been left without the support he expected. Vladimir Putin made his first public comments on the Middle East war. Iran is now unifying around its leadership following Israel's attack. Putin played his trump card, knowing the West is trying to destabilize Iran from within. According to the Russian president, Iran's underground facilities are intact. Nothing has happened to them. This is a message to Trump. Iran could become a costly mistake. The US president might be told Iran is weak, but that's a false assumption. Putin also stated that a solution can be found that satisfies all parties and offered Russia as a mediator. If that scenario plays out, the Kremlin's influence will grow significantly. Zelensky's worst nightmare, Putin announced that Russia has reached an agreement with Israel not to target Russians building nuclear power plants in Iran. He emphasized Russia's weight in the matter, showing that its projects in Iran will continue unhindered. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal reported that Trump has privately approved plans for an attack on Iran, though he has not yet given a final order. In both the US and Israel, there is now serious talk about deploying B-2 stealth strategic bombers, capable of delivering heavy bunker-busting bombs designed to penetrate underground nuclear facilities and mountain-based missile silos. This signals that the conflict may soon enter a new phase. Within the next 24 hours, we'll see whether Washington decides to take this step or limits itself to a show of force, according to the Telegram channel Secret Chancellery. Iran, in turn, has rejected American ultimatums and is clearly holding back large missile reserves, including ones capable of inflicting major damage on US forces. That's likely why retaliatory strikes on Israel have decreased in recent days. Two scenarios are emerging. The US limits itself to localized airstrikes without involving B-2 bombers. The US uses stealth bombers to target deep military facilities. The West might also try to provoke Iran's political and military elites into a controlled coup to install the son of the last Shah as a convenient transitional figure. But for now, there are no signs of real internal instability in Iran. Moscow and Beijing understand that the fall of Tehran would give the West the upper hand, not only in the Middle East, but globally. That's why they are actively supporting Iran, seeing it as a pillar of the emerging multipolar world order. Their support will take many forms, from coordinated diplomacy to technological assistance aimed at reducing military pressure. By engaging as a mediator, strategic advisor, and supplier of deterrent capabilities, Russia can not only block the West's objectives, but seize the initiative in shaping new global rules. This is not just a moment of crisis, it's a window of global leadership, and letting it close would mean a serious weakening of influence. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay informed, stay sharp, and we'll see you in the next update. Take care.